deep within the heart of a verdant, impossibly vibrant jungle, where sunlight dappled through a canopy of colossal leaves and the air hummed with the symphony of unseen creatures, lived a creature of pure, unadulterated chaos. His name was Mitch, a monkey whose energy levels were matched only by his capacity for causing pandemonium. Mitch wasn't malicious, not truly. He was simply a whirlwind of furry, brown mischief, a living embodiment of the unexpected, a furry force of nature that rarely considered the consequences of his actions. His days were a blur of acrobatic leaps, boisterous hoots, and an insatiable curiosity that often led him to the most inconvenient of places. He was the living, breathing embodiment of that moment when you spill your morning coffee all over your brand new laptop, an unforeseen disaster that rattles your carefully constructed peace. Our protagonist, however, was not so easily flustered, at least not usually. Picture this: a gentle soul, perhaps a sloth with an unusually optimistic outlook, or a wise old toucan with a penchant for order, who found solace in the predictable rhythm of jungle life. Their days were a tapestry woven with the sweet scent of ripening bananas, the rhythmic thud of coconuts falling from swaying palms, and the tranquil rustle of leaves. They had cultivated a life of peaceful productivity, a sanctuary of calm amidst the wild. But then, there was Mitch. Mitch, the agent of entropy, the furry disruptor, the primate whose very existence seemed dedicated to testing the limits of serenity. He was the spark that could ignite an inferno of inconvenience, the banana peel that could send your entire operation sliding into disarray. This isn't just a tale of a troublesome monkey, oh no. This is a vibrant, fruit-fueled exploration of the unpredictable messes life throws our way, the moments when everything goes sideways, and the quiet realization that sometimes, the greatest adventures begin with the biggest catastrophes. Think of it as your personal jungle survival guide, where insurance isn't just a policy document, it's your ultimate, metaphorical jungle survival kit. We're about to embark on a journey, guided by the ever-present threat of Mitch-shaped disasters, to understand how to navigate these moments and emerge, perhaps a little shaken, but definitely prepared. Imagine the scene: lush foliage, the air thick with the scent of exotic blossoms, and the gentle flow of a crystal-clear river. This is paradise, a haven of tranquility. But lurking just beyond the periphery, a furry shadow darts through the trees, a mischievous glint in its eye. This is Mitch, and his presence signals that even in the most idyllic settings, chaos is never far behind. He's the embodiment of that feeling when your meticulously planned picnic is suddenly ruined by an unexpected downpour, or when a simple errand turns into a comical ordeal. Our story is about facing these moments head-on, not with fear, but with a plan, a strategy for resilience, much like finding the perfect shelter when the storm hits. Our hero, the embodiment of order and peace, has built a life designed for serenity. Their banana grove, a source of sweet sustenance and perhaps even a small, thriving business, represents their dedication and hard work. Their coconut cart, a reliable mode of transport and commerce, signifies their ability to thrive in this environment. Everything is in its place, meticulously managed, a testament to a life lived with purpose and calm. Yet, the shadow of Mitch, the unpredictable element, looms large. He's the unforeseen snag in the fabric of life, the unexpected twist that can unravel even the most carefully laid plans, forcing us to adapt and find new ways to protect what we cherish. I'm not some academic poring over dusty tomes, you know? I'm an eyewitness, a survivor of that hurricane. I lived it, up close and personal. I smelled the smoke, tasted the dust. And because of that, my version of the story is different. It's raw. I'm not going to give you some dry lecture. I'm going to tell you what it was like to be there, how we felt, how we fought to make it through. And if you think history is just about what's in the past, pay attention. What we went through shaped our present and will influence our future. So, pull up a chair, grab some coffee, and let's get into it, because the truth is, we have a lot to learn from what's already happened. Before Mitch, life had a rhythm, a predictable cadence that settled deep in our bones. Our coconut cart wasn't just a way to get around, it was the engine of our days, the symbol of our ability to make a living, to thrive against the odds in this beautiful, yet formidable, place. Everything had its spot, its purpose, meticulously arranged. It was a life built on a foundation of order, a quiet confidence in our ability to manage the ebb and flow. But then there was Mitch. He was the unpredictable force, the rogue wave that could appear out of nowhere and toss even the most steadfast ship off course. He was the unforeseen snag, the unexpected tear in the tapestry of our existence, capable of unraveling the most carefully woven plans. He forced us to adapt, to find new ways to shelter and protect the things we held dear. The air itself seemed to vibrate with a new tension, a subtle shift that hinted at the storm to come, a silent prelude to the chaos. Before him, the world had been a predictable, albeit sometimes mundane, rhythm. Days bled into nights with a familiar cadence, and personal goals, no matter how ambitious, felt achievable within the established order of things. Then, as if a cosmic switch had been flipped, the familiar dissolved. The foundations we'd taken for granted crumbled, not with a single cataclysmic roar, but with a series of jarring tremors that dislodged everything. It wasn't just the grand structures that faltered, it was the simple, everyday certainties, the ease of movement, the reliable supply of necessities, the quiet hum of ordinary life. Suddenly, the immediate surroundings became a battleground, not of armies, but of immediate needs and instinct. Every decision, from where to find a safe place to rest to how to acquire what was essential for another sunrise, was imbued with a weight that hadn't existed before. There was no manual for this new reality. The skills honed for navigating the old world seemed quaint, almost irrelevant. The intricate dance of social interaction and economic exchange was replaced by a stark, primal calculus of survival. The feeling of being just one face in a sea of millions was replaced by a sharp awareness of individual vulnerability and a desperate need for connection, however fleeting. Friendships were tested, old alliances fractured under the strain, and new, unexpected bonds were forged in the crucible of shared hardship. The concept of normal became a distant, wistful memory, replaced by the immediate, pressing need to simply endure. Each dawn was a victory, and each sunset a temporary reprieve. The transformation wasn't just external, it was an internal reordering. The quiet anxieties of everyday life were dwarfed by the sheer scale of the immediate threats. The luxury of contemplation or long-term planning vanished. Action, often swift and decisive, became the primary mode of existence. The old definitions of success and failure dissolved, replaced by the more fundamental distinction between safety and danger, sustenance and hunger. It was a stark, unforgiving landscape where the only currency that truly mattered was resilience. The feeling of being a mere observer in the grand theater of life was gone, replaced by the visceral understanding of being a participant, thrust onto the stage without rehearsal. In the midst of this upheaval, amidst the echoing silence and the sudden bursts of uncertainty, the true nature of community, and of humanity itself, began to reveal itself. It wasn't about grand pronouncements or heroic deeds. It was in the shared glance of understanding between strangers, the quiet offering of a meager resource, the collective sigh of relief when a danger passed. It was in the simple, unadorned act of showing up, day after day, and facing whatever the shifting sands of this new world threw their way. The focus narrowed, not out of a lack of care for the wider world, but out of an absolute necessity to protect what was closest, what was tangible, what was loved. The air itself seemed to hum with an unspoken tension, a palpable energy that pressed down on everyone. It was the kind of atmosphere where whispers carried more weight than shouts, where every rustle of leaves or distant sound sparked a nervous twitch. We knew, with a certainty that burrowed deep into our bones, that something immense was on the horizon. Yet, the details remained frustratingly out of reach, like trying to grasp smoke. News reports flickered in and out of coherence, each channel offering a different, often contradictory, piece of the puzzle. Amidst this swirling vortex of uncertainty, we clung to what little we could discern, piecing together fragments in a desperate attempt to prepare for the unknown. The faces around me mirrored my own apprehension, a sea of wide, anxious eyes, the unspoken question hanging heavy, what happens now? The very ground beneath our feet felt unstable, a constant, low-grade tremor that reminded us of our precarious position. It was like being trapped in a waking nightmare, a film of dread that played out in real time, with no remote control to switch it off. Days blurred into a rhythm dictated by a heightened awareness. Every sunrise brought a fresh wave of anxiety, a gnawing question about what the coming light would reveal. We learned to read the subtle shifts in the wind, the behavior of the few remaining animals, searching for clues in their instincts that we lacked in our own understanding. Food became a constant, low-level preoccupation. Scavenging trips, once a desperate last resort, became a planned, cautious expedition. We moved in small, cohesive groups, our senses on high alert, each step measured. The silence of the abandoned streets was a deceptive cloak, and the potential for danger lurked in every shadow, every overturned vehicle. The concept of normal had evaporated, replaced by a stark, survivalist present. Yet, even in this harsh new reality, pockets of unexpected connection began to form. A shared glance of understanding between strangers, the quiet offering of a meager resource, the collective sigh of relief when a danger passed. It was in these simple, unadorned acts of humanity that a fragile hope began to take root. We were bound together not by choice, but by circumstance, by the shared need to endure. The focus narrowed, not out of a lack of care for the wider world, but out of an absolute necessity to protect what was closest, what was tangible, what was loved. The world outside our immediate sphere might have been a chaotic abyss, but within our small circle, we built a bulwark against the encroaching despair. The shockwave, whether literal or figurative, had detonated, leaving behind a landscape irrevocably altered. My senses, once familiar with the predictable rhythm of daily existence, were now assaulted by sights and sounds that defied comprehension, and feelings that churned with an intensity one hadn't known existed. I found myself a participant in moments that redefined courage, witnessing acts that stripped away any pretense of bravery. Tears flowed, anguished cries tore through the air, and the primal instinct to survive kicked in with a ferocity I'd only read about. Through it all, a desperate struggle waged within me, a battle to hold on to my grip on reality, to prevent myself from being swallowed by the overwhelming pandemonium. Because, in the end, stripped bare of all else, we are ultimately all we have. In the aftermath, amidst the dust and the disarray, the shared vulnerability became a strange kind of glue. We were thrown together, not by affinity or design, but by the sheer, undeniable force of needing to get through each day. The scope of our concern necessarily contracted, not because we ceased to care about the larger world, but because the immediate imperative was to shield those closest to us, the ones we could touch, the ones who held our hearts. The chaos that raged beyond our immediate vicinity might have been an unfathomable void, but within our tightly knit group, we erected a defense against the creeping despair, a small, defiant flicker against the encroaching darkness. This narrowing of focus wasn't selfish, it was the raw, unvarnished calculus of survival. As the initial shock began to recede, a new kind of awareness dawned. It wasn't the grand pronouncements or the sweeping gestures that provided solace, but the quiet, almost imperceptible acts of kindness. A shared ration of food, a word of comfort whispered in the darkness, a hand offered in support when one's legs threatened to buckle, these were the building blocks of our resilience. We learned to read the unspoken needs in each other's eyes, to anticipate fears before they were voiced, to celebrate the smallest victories with a reverence that bordered on the sacred. The world had fundamentally changed, and so, we too, were changing, shedding old skins and adapting to a new, harsher reality. The bonds forged in this crucible were unlike any I had ever experienced. They were not the comfortable, casual connections of peacetime, but the deep, unbreakable ties that are woven from shared hardship and mutual reliance. We were each other's anchors, preventing the currents of fear and despair from pulling us under. We learned to trust implicitly, for a misplaced doubt could have dire consequences. Every decision, every action, was weighed not just for its immediate benefit, but for its potential ripple effect on the group. This collective consciousness, born of necessity, became our greatest strength. After the storm, came the aftermath. We looked around and saw the devastation. Lives lost, dreams shattered, homes destroyed. And we had to start from scratch, rebuild what was lost, heal the wounds. It was a long and painful process, but we didn't give up. We united, we supported each other, and together, we managed to overcome the pain and move forward. Because, in the end, hope is the last to die. The initial days were a blur of grit and determination. Dust settled not just on the remnants of our former lives, but within our very beings. We moved with a somber efficiency, driven by a primal need to secure what little remained and to honor those who were no longer with us. Each salvaged item, no matter how small or broken, became a testament to our resilience. A child's tattered teddy bear, a chipped ceramic mug, a faded photograph, they were more than just objects, they were whispers of a past we were fighting to reclaim. Our days were structured by the rising and setting of the sun. Mornings were for clearing debris, for digging through the rubble with bare hands when tools were scarce. Afternoons were dedicated to communal tasks, setting up temporary shelters, rationing meager supplies, and tending to the injured. Evenings, as the sky bled into hues of orange and purple, brought a quiet solemnity. We would gather, sharing stories and the little food we had, finding solace in the shared experience, in the simple act of not being alone. Slowly, tentatively, we began to rebuild. The first structures were rudimentary, born out of necessity and resourcefulness. Fallen timber became walls, salvaged tarps provided roofs. These were not the homes we had known, but they were sanctuaries, places where we could rest our weary bodies and find a semblance of safety. Each nail hammered, each beam secured, was a small victory against the overwhelming sense of loss. The emotional toll was undeniable. Grief was a constant companion, a shadow that lingered in the quiet moments. There were days when the weight of it all felt crushing, when the urge to succumb to despair was almost overwhelming. But then, a child's laughter would cut through the somber air, or a neighbor would offer a word of encouragement, and we would find the strength to press on. These small acts of kindness, these glimmers of humanity, were the fuel that kept our spirits from extinguishing. We learned to celebrate the smallest of triumphs, for they were the stepping stones on our path to recovery. The experience irrevocably altered my perspective. It instilled in me a profound appreciation for what truly holds value, forging a more robust and resilient version of myself. I came to understand the ephemeral nature of life, the necessity of cherishing each fleeting moment, and the imperative to champion our deepest convictions. It illuminated the understanding that history is not merely a recounting of bygone eras but a dynamic interplay between the past, present, and future. We bear the solemn responsibility of drawing wisdom from past missteps to ensure they are not replicated. The scars, though visible, became a testament to our endurance rather than a symbol of defeat. Each day presented new challenges, demanding a fresh reserve of courage. There were moments when the silence was deafening, punctuated only by the rustling of leaves or the distant call of a bird, and in those quiet interludes, we found a peculiar kind of solace. It was in these intervals of reflection that the lessons learned began to coalesce, transforming abstract notions into tangible guides for living. The understanding that life is a fragile gift was no longer a philosophical musing but a visceral truth, woven into the fabric of our daily existence. This newfound strength was not a solitary achievement. It was nurtured by the shared humanity that emerged from the crucible of adversity. The simple act of sharing a meager meal, the comforting touch of a hand on a weary shoulder, the collective sigh of relief after navigating a particularly difficult day, these were the threads that bound us together, reinforcing our resolve. We discovered that our individual resilience was amplified when interwoven with the resilience of others. The laughter, once a rare and precious commodity, began to echo more frequently, a melody of hope returning to the landscape of our lives. The world, which had once seemed a place of overwhelming darkness, began to reveal its subtle hues of light once more. It wasn't that the difficulties had vanished, but our capacity to face them had been fundamentally reshaped. We learned to anticipate the storms, not with dread, but with a quiet preparedness, knowing that the sun would inevitably break through the clouds. This cyclical understanding of life, of challenge and renewal, became a cornerstone of our renewed outlook, a constant reminder that even the deepest valleys precede the highest peaks. Our journey had, in essence, become a living history lesson. We were no longer passive observers of the past but active participants in shaping its continuation. The mistakes we had witnessed, both our own and those of generations before, served as potent warnings, guiding our choices and reinforcing our commitment to a more just and compassionate future. This profound sense of agency, of being able to influence the narrative, was perhaps the most transformative aspect of our ordeal, a powerful antidote to any lingering sense of powerlessness. Looking back now, I can see a clear thread weaving through the tapestry of my life. Every setback, every tear shed, every moment of profound loss, was not in vain. These experiences, however painful, acted as catalysts, forging me into the person I am today. They stripped away layers of naivety, revealing a deeper humanity, a greater capacity for empathy, and a heightened awareness of the world around me. I learned the true weight of love, the liberating power of forgiveness, and the exquisite richness of a life fully lived. It was this crucible of hardship that also gifted me the courage to speak my truth. The scars, once sources of shame, became testaments to resilience. Now, I feel an undeniable urge to share my journey, not for self-congratulation, but in the hope of reaching others who find themselves adrift in their own storms. I want them to know that the darkness is not permanent, that the storms eventually pass, and that within them lies an untapped wellspring of strength, waiting to be discovered. This newfound resolve has shifted my perspective on every interaction. I approach others with a gentler heart, understanding that everyone carries their own invisible burdens. The ability to truly listen, to offer a hand without judgment, and to acknowledge the shared human experience of struggle and triumph has become a cornerstone of my being. It's a quiet strength, built not on the absence of challenges, but on the profound understanding that overcoming them makes us more capable of supporting others through theirs. The realization that past mistakes, both personal and those inherited from generations before, were not just cautionary tales but living lessons has profoundly shaped my present. We are no longer condemned to repeat cycles of discord. Instead, we can actively choose a different path, one illuminated by the wisdom gleaned from hardship. This active participation in shaping our collective narrative, this potent antidote to any lingering feeling of helplessness, is perhaps the most valuable inheritance from the trials we have endured. It's a powerful affirmation that even in the face of adversity, we possess the agency to create a brighter tomorrow, a tomorrow where compassion and understanding prevail. The profound takeaway from all of this, the unshakable truth that has settled deep within my bones, is that we are far more resilient than we ever imagined. We possess an inherent capability to surmount any obstacle, to confront any challenge head-on, with a courage that often surprises even ourselves. Within each of us lies the immense strength required not only to navigate our own lives but to effect real change in the world around us, to actively sculpt a future that is brighter and more hopeful for everyone. This realization isn't a passive observation, it's a call to action. It's the understanding that the power to transform our circumstances, to build a better tomorrow, resides not in some external force or magical intervention, but in our own collective will and our unwavering belief in our potential. It simply requires us to embrace this inner strength, to recognize it, and then to act upon it. The key lies in that simple, yet profound, act of believing in ourselves and in each other. Furthermore, this journey has underscored the undeniable power of unity. When we stand together, when our individual strengths are combined, our capacity for positive impact is magnified exponentially. It's the synergy of shared purpose, the amplified voice of many united in a common goal, that allows us to move mountains and dismantle barriers that once seemed insurmountable. This shared endeavor, this pooling of resources and spirits, is what truly ignites the engine of change. The path forward is illuminated by the understanding that we are not merely passengers in the unfolding narrative of our lives and our communities, we are the architects. The challenges we've faced have been the raw materials, the difficult lessons that have forged us into stronger, wiser beings. Now, with this newfound clarity, we can consciously choose to channel that resilience, that inherent strength, and that collective power into tangible actions. We can become the living embodiment of the positive transformations we wish to see in the world. It's about taking ownership of our future, about actively participating in its creation rather than passively waiting for it to happen. It's about recognizing that every act of kindness, every step towards understanding, every voice raised in advocacy, contributes to the greater good. This is the ultimate lesson. We are not defined by the hardships we endure, but by the strength, unity, and unwavering spirit we summon in their wake. We are, in essence, the architects of our own brighter dawn. And that's precisely why I share my story with you. Not to boast, nor to play the victim, but to inspire. To show you that you are not alone, that we are in this together, that we can count on each other. To give you hope, to give you strength, to give you courage. To remind you that history is made by people like you and me, and that we possess the power to change the world. The path ahead may seem daunting, a labyrinth of uncertainties and challenges. But remember the resilience you've already demonstrated. Think of the times you've stumbled, only to rise again, a little wiser, a little stronger. Those moments, those trials, are not scars to be hidden, but badges of honor, testaments to your inner fortitude. They are the fuel that ignites the fire of your spirit, pushing you forward when the inclination is to retreat. It's about actively engaging with the narrative of our lives, about becoming the authors of our own destinies. This isn't a passive spectator sport, it's a call to arms for the soul. Every interaction, no matter how small it may seem, carries the potential for ripple effects. A simple smile can disarm anger, a listening ear can ease a burden, a supportive word can mend a fractured spirit. These are the building blocks of a better tomorrow, crafted with the materials of empathy and compassion. We must cultivate a deep understanding of our interconnectedness. The struggles of one are, in essence, the struggles of all. When we extend a hand to another, we are not just helping them, but strengthening the very fabric of our shared existence. This collective strength, this unified purpose, is what allows us to overcome obstacles that would otherwise seem insurmountable. It's in this unity that our true power lies, a force capable of reshaping realities. Embrace the notion that your unique perspective, your individual voice, is an indispensable element in the grand tapestry of human experience. Each person brings a distinct hue, a singular texture, that contributes to the overall richness and complexity. When we are afraid to speak our truth, when we silence the songs of our souls, we diminish the collective potential of humanity. Therefore, let your voice ring out, clear and strong, for it is a vital part of the symphony of change. The future is not a fixed destination, it is a landscape we are constantly shaping with our choices and actions. It is a canvas awaiting our brushstrokes. Do not let fear or doubt paralyze you into inaction. Instead, let the lessons learned from past adversities empower you. Let the knowledge that you are not alone fuel your determination. Go forth, then, with unwavering resolve, knowing that you are an essential part of this unfolding story, and that your contribution, however you choose to make it, is profoundly meaningful. Today, I stand as living proof that rising after a fall is not just possible, but an inevitable part of our journey. I am a testament to the extraordinary power of transforming pain into unwavering strength, and of diligently building a future that shines brighter than any past shadow. This conviction isn't merely personal, it's a universal truth I want to share with you, a belief I desperately hope you will embrace. Please, know this with every fiber of your being, you are capable of more than you imagine. You possess an inner fortitude that can weather any storm, and a uniqueness that makes you truly special. Your story, with all its twists and turns, deserves to be told and heard. Your voice, with its distinct perspective and heartfelt resonance, holds immense power. Your life, in its entirety, is precious and undeniably matters. Therefore, I urge you, lift your head high, and keep moving forward. Never, under any circumstances, surrender your belief in yourself. The world is a vast and intricate tapestry, and you are an indispensable thread, weaving your unique pattern into its grand design. Your journey, marked by resilience and the wisdom gained from every setback, equips you to face whatever lies ahead. Remember the strength that propelled you through challenges before, it is still within you, ready to be tapped. The world awaits the light that only you can bring. It needs the clarity of your vision, the warmth of your spirit, and the impact of your actions. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of your courage. Each step you take, each obstacle you overcome, inspires others to find their own inner strength and pursue their own dreams. The very essence of your being, your inherent worth, is a beacon that can guide and uplift those around you. So, embrace this truth as your own. You are not defined by your stumbles, but by your recovery. You are not limited by your scars, but empowered by the healing they represent. The future is not a predetermined path, but a landscape we sculpt with our choices, our perseverance, and our unyielding hope. Trust in your capacity to evolve, to grow, and to create a life that reflects your deepest aspirations. Your presence enriches the world, and your continued journey is a source of inspiration for all.